Imagine waking up 50,000 years ago. There are no hospitals, no medicine, no wheelchairs, no painkillers. Every single day is a fight against freezing nights, hungry predators, and the constant search for food. One wrong step during a hunt could shatter a leg. One infected wound could become a death sentence. In a world this unforgiving, survival seems reserved only for the strongest.
Now imagine something even more shocking. What if someone was blind in one eye? What if they couldn't hear properly? What if they had lost the use of an arm or struggled to walk? Most people assume the answer is obvious. Ancient humans must have abandoned anyone who couldn't keep up. After all, carrying an injured person would slow the entire group, putting everyone at risk.
For decades, this seemed like common sense. But then, archaeologists began uncovering skeletons that told a completely different story. Bones that had healed over many years. Injuries so severe that survival should have been impossible. Elderly individuals who lived long after losing nearly all their teeth. People whose very existence challenged everything we thought we knew about prehistoric life. These silent skeletons carried an extraordinary secret. They hinted that the first great human invention wasn't a weapon, a tool, or even fire. It may have been compassion. And the most remarkable evidence was waiting inside a dark cave in the mountains of northern Iraq. Deep inside Shanidar Cave in present-day northern Iraq, archaeologists uncovered one of the most extraordinary skeletons ever found. It belonged to a Neanderthal who lived around 45,000 to 50,000 years ago. At first glance, it looked like just another ancient burial. But as scientists studied the bones more closely, an incredible story emerged. This individual, now known as Shanidar I, had endured injuries that should have made survival nearly impossible. His left arm had likely been amputated or rendered useless. One eye was almost certainly blind from a devastating head injury. Damage to his leg would have made walking painful, and evidence suggests he may also have suffered significant hearing loss. Yet the most astonishing fact wasn't his injuries. It was that he didn't die from them. The bones showed years of healing, meaning Shanidar I survived long after these life-changing disabilities. He couldn't have hunted efficiently or defended himself alone. Someone must have shared food with him. Someone must have protected him. Someone stayed with him long enough for those wounds to heal. And Shanidar wasn't the only case.
Across Europe and Asia, archaeologists began discovering more skeletons with similar stories. Elderly people without teeth, individuals with severe bone disorders, and adults who survived conditions that would have required years of support. The evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. Ancient humans weren't just surviving together, they were caring for one another. But why would evolution reward compassion in a world where every meal could mean the difference between life and death?
At first, caring for an injured person seems like a terrible survival strategy. Every extra mouth to feed meant less food for everyone else. Slowing down for someone who couldn't hunt or travel easily appears to go against the basic idea of survival of the fittest. But modern science tells a very different story. Anthropologists now believe that early humans didn't survive because every individual was strong. They survived because their groups were strong. A skilled hunter could break a leg, but months later, return with years of valuable experience. An elder who could no longer run might still know where water could be found during a drought, or how to craft better stone tools. Knowledge became just as valuable as muscle. This idea is supported by studies of modern hunter-gatherer communities, where food is often shared, children are cared for by many adults, and injured members continue contributing in different ways. While these groups are not direct windows into the past, They show that cooperation can dramatically improve a community's chances of survival. In other words, empathy wasn't simply an act of kindness. The ability to help one another may have allowed human societies to grow stronger, smarter, and more resilient than any single individual could ever be. But one final question remained. If compassion helped shape humanity thousands of years ago, what does that reveal about who we are today?
For a long time, we imagined prehistoric humans as ruthless survivors, people who lived by one simple rule: the strong survive and the weak are left behind. But the archaeological evidence paints a far more human picture. From the toothless Homo erectus individual at Dmanisi, who lived years after losing nearly every tooth, to the elderly Neanderthals who survived crippling injuries, and the people with congenital disabilities who were buried with care, the message is remarkably consistent. These individuals didn't survive by chance. They survived because they belonged to communities that chose to help them. Of course, life in the Stone Age was still incredibly harsh. Many injured people undoubtedly died from infection, starvation, or accidents. Compassion wasn't guaranteed, and resources were often limited. But the fact that even some disabled individuals survived for years tells us something extraordinary. Caring for others wasn't the exception. It was part of what made humans successful. Perhaps the greatest breakthrough in human history wasn't the first spear, the first fire, or even the first language. Perhaps it was the moment one human looked at another who could no longer survive alone and decided not to walk away. That simple choice may have changed the course of our evolution forever. Because in the end, the story of ancient disability isn't just about those who struggled to survive. It's the story of how compassion became one of humanity's greatest strengths, and why, tens of thousands of years later, it still defines us today.